Kia ora koutou and welcome to Frogs on Friday, where we go through what's happening in the world of work and the employment market. So today we're going to go through in Mahi Media, the unemployment rate stats came out this week. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go through some of our hot jobs as usual, and I'm joined by Peter Cristani from our Wellington office to give us a market update on what's happening in that part of the world. As usual, we'll go through our Twitter poll. Be quite interesting to see the results of what people thought about the new fair pay agreements that we spoke about last week. And that will about do us for today. Now I've marked up here, so I did take my background off earlier so that I could have my strategically positioned gumboots for Gumboot Friday in the background, but I've stuffed that up, so I'll just have to bring them. Oh, can't even get them into shot because my well, there we go. We'll just hide my face and put the gumboot. So didn't quite go to plan, but the key point is that really wanted to show our support for this worthy cause. And I think that being suited and booted for recruitment has a bit of a different meaning today as we put on some gummies and get out there to raise awareness as well as funds for free kids counselling. So there's some links through there in the chat. So if you are interested in fundraising or getting involved, there's still time to do that today. And I'm sure they'll always appreciate your support. Okay, so let's change tack a little bit and go through to Mahi Media. Okay, so as I mentioned, the unemployment rates for the September quarter were released this week on Wednesday. So interesting to see that the unemployment rate remained unchanged at 3.3% and keeping to those record lows that we've seen across this year. And what does that mean for us or people looking for work? Is that there's still that very high demand for job seekers, especially as we have pressures with, the borders are well and truly open now, and we're seeing people take the opportunity to move overseas when they haven't been able to. And we look to see how that balances out between also, of course, our borders opening and seeing people come through on the likes of working holiday visas and other work visas as well as Kiwis returning home. I think there's some more good news out of the stats as well. So we saw that women, the underutilization rate decreased slightly, so down to 10.9% from over 11%. As well as the employment, as well we saw employment growth for young people as well. So this increased from 57.7% up to 61.7%. So good to see those areas which have historically have been a little bit more bad news, to see them growing in the right direction there. But I think the even bigger news out of that was that we saw record wage growth. So the average ordinary hourly earning, it's always a mouthful, that one, rose to 7.4%, just topping the inflation rate, which is currently at 7.2%. So all through this year, we've been talking about how that balance of power has shifted, and job seekers and employees suddenly feel as if they're in a strong position to be able to push for those increased salaries or rates, particularly as we've had the pressures of rising living costs and inflation. When the last stats were out for the last quarter, it was definitely moving in the right direction, but not quite fast enough to keep up with inflation. So really significant that that has topped out, rising at a faster rate than the inflation rate. So we'll see how that plays out as well. Interesting to note that there are some differences across the private sector and public sector. So the public sector wages and salaries have been lagging there. So might land Peter in it a little bit later on in the show, as he talks about the Wellington market, and particularly that strong emphasis on the government sector in Wellington. Okay, so let's go through and look at some of the jobs that we have on offer this week. Okay, so the first one up is from Wellington, so I'll pass over to Peter to talk about this one.
Thank you, Shannon. This role is working in a large government agency, and it's working across it's quite a very diverse portfolio, and we're looking for someone who's had some exposure to either portfolio planning or management. And it's working to a really great manager, a chap that I've dealt with for a number of years. He's really good to work with. They've got a really engaged team who really look after each other, and that's often you hear that, but actually that's the case in this situation, because often people say, I've got a great team, and actually the team isn't that great. But in this case, I do know them, and I know a number of the people in the team as well as the manager. So it's a great opportunity, be a really good learning for someone, and really use your skills and experience. Looking for someone with really good people skills as well, and strong EQ that can work across the organisation.
Excellent.
So if you're interested, get a hold of Sophia.
Okay, and next up we have a junior accountant role based in Auckland. This one is, Simi is working on this one here, and a range of different duties. So for someone who's looking for that next step, perhaps they've been an assistant accountant and looking to take on more responsibilities. So you need to have good all-round skills within accounting, and there'll be a big focus on things like processing invoices, reconciliations. So definitely that attention to detail, as always, is going to be crucial for this one. If you're interested, get in touch with Simi and the Auckland team here. And last up is another one to Wellington, so for Wellington. So back over to Peter.
Thank you. Now, this is working in a new organisation. It's a very new Greenfields team. They've got some large-scale investments that they have to help plan, prioritise. It's working right across New Zealand. Often in the investment space, it's quite a dry area, and the people can be a little bit dry as well. But really good manager. The principal I talked to there is a very engaged chap. He's been in the role about 6 or 8 weeks, so it's very much at a formative stage. The team will be building, so it's a great time to get in to help add some value really quickly, and to potentially really grow in the role as well. So looking for people with either, you might have come from similar to the previous role we talked about, a portfolio background, but we're looking for someone who's really good around numbers, to be able to look at business cases, to help people within the organisation to build their business cases, to prioritise and help the managers to prioritise, is this business case actually going to fly? Where does it sit within the other portfolio business cases as well? So great greenfields opportunity, big scale, interesting work, add some value. Give us a call. Again, get back to Sophia if you can.
Excellent. All right, and let's go through. I think we've got a video for one of our temporary positions in Auckland this week.
Team calling all distribution fans. We are currently recruiting for a global medical supplies company based out of Mount Wellington. They are currently looking for kit assemblers, and the pay rate is $25 per hour plus 8% holiday pay. This role is essentially starting off as a 3-month temporary contract with an opportunity for it to extend. Some of the day-to-day activities would look like as you will get an invoice of different medical supplies that are needed, and what your role will entail is just gathering those medical supplies to create a kit, which then can be distributed throughout Auckland and New Zealand for different medical companies. If this sounds like a role for you, give me a call on 09362 0781 for a confidential chat or apply now.
Okay, now as we gear up to we're in the obviously in the last quarter and heading to the pointy end of the year. How are things looking in the job seeker market in Wellington, Peter?
It's really buoyant still in the government sector. I was looking at your figures at the beginning and talking about the pressures on wages and hourly rates going up, and we've certainly seen that where there's been in government the salary cap on, I think it's over 60k, salaries over 60k, and that's resulted in quite a number of people going, well, I can't get a pay rise, so I'll look for another job. We've certainly seen some of the contract rates increasing quite significantly over the last sort of 12, 18 months. There is a bit of pushback coming from employers now about paying high rates for people that they think is just not realistic. So a bit of a gap there sometimes about what the client wants to pay and what the candidates want. And also looking at I looked at the government jobs that have been advertised at the moment, and at this stage there's only about 360 roles advertised in Wellington, and 43 in the policy space. And it's really interesting because two of those two jobs that I talked about earlier, they are both not advertised. So the amount of roles that are being advertised and shown is significantly less than what's actually out there, because the client's been to market, hasn't been able to find the right people, so going back to square one, and sometimes they're just going, oh, look, we'll wait. But certainly at the moment, we're not seeing a die down in the market leading into Christmas yet. I think that'll probably happen in a 3 or 4 weeks' time, getting to that December mark. People go, oh, unless you get someone sort of right now. But it's really a good time to be looking. We're working with candidates, and if we don't have something that we know exactly, we'll try to go, okay, well, what other organisations and roles, and talk to them about where we might be able to help them in roles that aren't advertised at the moment.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I try not to give too many blatant plugs to Frog, but talking about just that mismatch between the number of vacancies and opportunities that are actually there, but what the average job seeker is going to know about, gives you even more reason to get in touch with the likes of Peter and the rest of the team there in the Wellington team. So we just a reminder, so obviously a key focus for the team in Wellington is across that policy space, but we do cover all the other areas within, and particularly working with government agencies, so whether that's marketing or customer service or administration as well, across temp and perm. So if you are in the Wellington area, feel free to have a chat with Peter and the team there. What else is happening? So you said there are plenty of opportunities, and particularly in that policy space. What are the types of things or types of roles that are coming up where there's really high demand for good candidates?
We've got a lot of work in the Maori space at the moment for people who have got government experience, can speak te reo, understand how the interface between government and Maori. So there's a lot of work in that. A lot of work going around investment and planning, because there's a lot of large-scale projects and changes going on. We've got the health reforms, the Three Waters reforms, and there's a lot of conjecture and publicity around how the Three Waters is going to work or not. And whatever happens, I think there is certainly going to be some major changes, and that still that's still forming a little bit. So that's creating lots of opportunities. We're finding that there's a lot of contracting seems to be a little bit quieter, and that there's a reticence in managers to be paying a lot in an hourly rate. We've had quite a few contractors wanting more, so that's it's been interesting sort of managing those expectations. Certainly, I think there is drivers around having quality, a good fit between personality, experience that's appropriate for the role as well. We certainly are busy at the moment. We've got more roles coming in. Often in sort of November, you're going, it's going to go quiet, but I'm suspecting that it's going to be busy right through. We're heading into election year. There's a lot of things still to happen before the government agencies have promised to get things done, and they still need to be able to achieve that, plus whatever other things that are in the public limelight as well. But it's a good time for candidates. So especially if you've got government experience in whatever sector, we'd love to hear from you. And if we haven't got anything advertised, still drop us a line, send us your CV, and we can still see if we can help in any way.
Beautiful. I think that we talk about those soft skills or transferable skills that are all important. Definitely that adaptability and flexible to change is something that's going to be key, not just in the government space, but definitely over the last few years anyway, that will be a key skill that will see you right for many years to come. Okay. Let's go through must be time to check out our poll from last week. So we were talking about with the new fair pay agreements coming into play. I was interested to tap into the pulse of the people and see what you thought about those, whether they were a fair go or, oh no, don't go there. Really strong result here. So actually, I think in the media, there's a lot of talk, or the emphasis is that, well, maybe this isn't a good thing. But our poll definitely says the opposite. So 72% said, yeah, this sounds like a good idea. And I think as well, we talked about from the candidate or employee perspective, particularly in some of those industries that have had low pay rates or perhaps poor conditions, this is definitely being seen as a positive. So smashing result there. Okay, let's go through and check out the poll for this week. Okay, so on our theme with mental health and Gumboot Friday, we would like to ask, do you feel comfortable discussing your mental health at work? So I think we've definitely, over the past decade or so, it hasn't really been that long, we have made some improvements in normalizing those conversations and making it a part, and just recognizing that, it's okay to not be okay all the time, and to really address that and place that importance on well-being. So again, let's see if it has made a difference to how you feel, how comfortable you feel about discussing that at work. That is it for today. Thanks again for joining us as always, and we will be back next Friday, 12:30. See you then. Ngā mihi nui.